debate about whether or not season 2 has good pacing, with some of us being like, come on, do something, with others being like, you're all Philistines, can't you appreciate the drama? But I think at this point, we can all come together and agree that season 2 does have a genuine pacing issue. I'm still enjoying it. You can enjoy something and, recognize the flaws in it. And there are a lot of developments to this issue. We have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about today. But they're all like micro developments. And I think the Haunted Harrenhal storyline has definitely overstayed its welcome. And obviously, the big reveal about Rhaenyra is going to spark a lot of conversation. And it's worth noting that both these elements, this kiss with Rhaenyra and Haunted Harrenhal, are not from the books. They are something that has been introduced by the show. And this show does not have a great track record with going dramatically off book. So, Harrenhal, I think, definitely has, as I just said, overstayed its welcome. And we'll see what the reaction is to this development with Rhaenyra. I'm going to go through it, of course, as well. At this rate, though, I think so we'll talk about it in depth in just a moment. But at this rate, with just 2 more episodes this season, I believe the big finale will have to be the Battle of the Gullet, which is the sea battle with, thank goodness, lots of dragons. So that's exciting. But I think from a producing standpoint, it would have been better to have 3 dragon battles this season. I know they're expensive, but you got to give the peoples what they want. I would have moved Rook's Rest up to episode 3 instead of having it take place in episode 4. I think the Battle of the Gullet should have been tonight's episode, episode 6. And then I would have finished out the season with the Fall of King's Landing in episode 8. I thought for sure that would be the end of this season, but I just don't see at this rate how we can get there. Now, obviously, it would have been better if this season had had 10 episodes like the first one instead of just 8. And even the creator of the show has been like, what are you going to do? It sucks, but that's what we got. And I think with 10 episodes, they could have easily fit in the 3 battles, and it would have made this season feel like more of a complete chapter, and have genuine momentum. I think I'm not going to ruin the Fall of King's Landing for you, but when you see it, you will be like, and apparently you won't see it for years. All right. You'll agree that that would have been a great place to end this season. And fans of the books, I think, well, I'll be curious. Try not to have any spoilers down below, but I would be curious to what you think of that pacing, knowing what those battles entail. I would say at this point, though, all the momentum that came out of episode 4, which this season really needed, has now been spent. It's fine to take a little bit of a breather after a big episode like that with 5, but to do it again with 6, I'm surprised they aren't aware that pacing is becoming an issue for this season. But as I said, there are definitely developments this episode, with Rhaenyra finding herself in more ways than one. Some of you probably felt this kiss came out of nowhere, while others were like, I knew it! And one of the people who were in that camp was surely Olivia Cooke, because based off of previous interviews with herself and behind-the-scenes talent, they've said that Olivia Cooke has made it part of her canon, her head canon, that Alicent and Rhaenyra had a romantic connection when they were young, and that is part of the context of their relationship. It's the old Bucky and Steve conundrum all over again. Can 2 people just be really, really, really good friends, even though they also have insane chemistry? We've seen the PR campaign for season 2. Flirt City, baby. All right, so fans might take more issue with the idea that Rhaenyra declares that she never actually loved Daemon or was even attracted to him, but instead she realizes she actually just wanted to be him. Everybody wants to be Daemon, which is interesting because he himself is so unhappy with how his life has actually turned out. I guess everybody feels they want to be like Daemon, but better. For a few episodes now, Rhaenyra has been unhappy with how she's being treated as queen. She longs to be a ruler with agency instead of simply a figurehead. And also, interestingly, these are the same frustrations that Aegon had and that Aemond is now having himself. We're going to talk about all that, of course. But Rhaenyra decides that if being a woman is the problem, she will act more like a man. And that slap needs a little work. It was a little weak, But it was a good start, and it did get all the servants who saw it going, damn, and talking about it in the castle. They were like, guess what Rhaenyra just did? And she does have a wonderful line. I love that line. It could go on, slap it on a t-shirt if we're going to be slapping stuff. And she says, it's my fault, I think, that you have forgotten to fear me. I'll say she's got a freaking dragon. Although, she's accidentally barbecuing people instead of intentionally. I can think of several of her council members who should have died several episodes ago. But anyway, on that note, Aemond is certainly feared as he cuts a ferocious path through his council, handing out orders that nobody likes, but, including firing his own mother, by the way. But I also advocated for that last episode. She should have seen that coming. But every time, everyone was clearly relieved at least that he didn't kill them. So Aemond has no problem with the fear angle. Aemond also very wisely sends for his grandfather, Otto Hightower, to return, although he ain't answering his ravens, so who knows what's up with him. But he wants his grandfather to be Hand of the King again. Another betrayal for Sir Criston Cole after Aemond already went rogue during Rook's Rest, which was supposed to be their joint operation. Yes, Aemond isn't very worried about being liked, even by his own people, as is evidenced this episode. But as real-world history has shown, that often ends up being a real problem. And on that note, Mysaria is exploiting it. Her ye old social media network, Ladies of the Night, including Aemond's own favorite Lady of the Night, tweeting #fake news at the bar about the royal family's banquets, although it's probably kind of close to the truth, upsetting the small folk. You guys said you don't want advanced spoilers, so let's just leave it at that. Although, parading the sheep past the starving, food for the dragons instead of the people, that's super dumb as well. And Mysaria's plan is two-pronged, as she also sends fresh food to King's Landing, one real boat and then several CGI boats after it. But of course, remember, King's Landing is under lockdown, but not to the sea, which is interesting because that actually mimics a current real-world situation. But that arrival of that food under Rhaenyra's banner causes a riot in King's Landing, which almost gets Alicent and her daughter Helena killed. And it seems some of their guards do get killed. This is the second time that Alicent has gone to light a candle and found herself incredibly vulnerable. Part of me would say, maybe stop going, but also she does get really important information every time she goes out, although she has yet to really ever do anything with that information. Forget reading the history books, Alicent. Read the room. One scene for Alicent that I did really like this episode, though, was when she asked her brother, Gawain, about her youngest son. I love that guy, actually. He has like a cool vibe. I believe he's actually going to play Loki in the upcoming season of Sandman. But anyway, she asks about her youngest son, Darren. Remember we discussed him a few episodes ago when Otto Hightower name dropped him and everyone got all excited, fans of the book? This is Alicent's third son who was sent away when he was very young to be raised, with her family back where the Hightowers are from. And he has like a blue dragon. He's really cool. But the nicest thing about him, it seems, is that he's nice, as Gawain reports that he is kind. And that makes Alicent very happy because she's like, why are my other two sons so horribly messed up? Is it me? And, her brother is very nice. And he says, oh, no, I think it's the pressure of the throne that twists people here. But we were there when those boys were being raised. And I think it's a little bit of Alicent's fault. She did pay very little attention to them. And she let Cole raise them. Cole's a sicko and pretty dumb. I don't really think there can be no redemption for Cole. He seems to be, waking up a little bit, but I think it's too late. Although to be fair to Alicent, she married Viserys, she was Viserys' second wife, and Viserys was much older, and he got sick pretty quickly, especially during these boys' formative years, requiring a lot of Alicent and Otto's attention to take care of him and to run the kingdom in his place. And so they weren't able to spend a lot of time with these boys. And neither was Viserys, like Viserys did with Rhaenyra. Still, considering that they were the heirs to the throne, a little bit more attention should have been paid to their development. All right, so let's talk Rhaenyra and Mysaria. I wonder how Daemon will feel that his ex-lover and probably ex-wife are now an item. Are they an item? Is this a genuine attraction? Is this going to lead to something? Or is it just a momentary flirtation with Rhaenyra feeling lonely and wanting to defy expectations? And Mysaria always scheming? Perhaps it's all of these things. Perhaps it's complex, like real life relationships. I mean, I do think Rhaenyra was moved by Mysaria sharing her tragic private childhood story with her, a deep secret. And I think Rhaenyra identified, they both do, with how hard it is for women in the world that they live in. This reminds me a bit of how Harley Quinn, after her abusive relationship with the Joker and her frustration over not being taken seriously by the Gotham villain patriarchy, they did it in the comics and then they tried to do it in a couple of other places. But the Harley Quinn animated series, season 1, is the best depiction of the changing Harley Quinn from the original animated series to the character she is today. And if you haven't seen that show, do yourself a favor and check it out. It's getting ready for its, I think, 5th season. It's such a good show. Love that show. Kite Man, which just started, a spinoff, not quite as good. But the Harley Quinn show is incredible. Best development for that character. So anyway, after all that, Harley Quinn fell in love with Poison Ivy, who provided a safe, loving, and encouraging space for her. However, that relationship took a while to bloom story-wise, and like years to bloom, in terms of telling that story. And, obviously House of the Dragon doesn't have to take that long, but I feel this could have been done a little bit more organic. I think that there were the hints were definitely there, but I think that not to the degree that I think it should have been to really, I think, successfully sell it. I mean, we'll see where we go from here. But to me, it just didn't seem as organic as it should have. We'll see how Jace reacts, right? He's been advising his mother more and more so. And of course, Corlys Velaryon is back in the game as Hand of the Queen. Both these men feel they should be advising Rhaenyra and have every right to. That's, Jace is heir to the throne after his mother, and Corlys is Hand of the Queen. But Mysaria just became an even more important and influential advisor to the Queen, even with no official title or rank. So, I mean, I hope that Mysaria's intentions are true, but, knowing what we know about Mysaria, that's got to be a factor in there a little bit, because she's making herself more and more important to the Queen in not only a professional way, but now a personal way as well. And so again, we'll see how fans react. It's interesting to me because I've seen a number of conservative fans who are frustrated with The Acolyte and The Boys season 4 going around saying at least they still have this show. And so we'll see how they react to this development. This relationship, or any relationship with a woman, was not in the books. And it does feature other LGBT relationships in the books. We've talked about some of the gay relationships, but also lesbian relationships in the books. But this, not with Rhaenyra, again, as I said. So this is a big risk for the show. I mean, I think there might have been some speculation even in the books with the characters, but this is a risk for the show to do because it doesn't have canon to back it up. Canon, when you're adapting material that's this beloved by a fan base, that's the foundation for your franchise, canon is important. And, Marvel really benefited from canon for a long time. And then when they started to deviate from canon is when they started to run into some of their current problems. So it's, and again, I think that if it had been done a little bit more organically, that would maybe be helpful. So we'll see. I'm curious, what was your reaction to this development? So we got some dragon action this episode, right? As Rhaenyra and Jace try out their dragonseed theory. Dragonseed is the polite term for bastard with some Valyrian blood. This guy was so incredibly loyal to Rhaenyra. Didn't she also get his father killed a couple of episodes ago, right? When Cole was on his rampage? And he escorted her, remember, into King's Landing to see Alicent. So it was a shame that his loyalty was so horribly rewarded. Whoa! I don't think he even showed fear at the end. In fact, I think he was at peace with his last words, ironically, I've done it. Addam certainly showed a ton of fear. So that theory goes out the window. Seasmoke just didn't like this other dude, so he barbecued him. Perhaps dragons are jerks. I think it's funny that Seasmoke decided to just choose his new rider. He was like, that's the way it's going to be, fine. I'll go get one myself. And I wonder then if Rhaenyra will just let the other spare dragons loose and let them choose their new riders as well. I'm surprised, even for the pacing issues with this episode, if at least Rhaenyra had flown next to Addam and been like, "What's up, man?" And she's like, "Get in, loser. We're taking on King's Landing." Something like that I think would have been a better ending, even if you're still stuck with this pace. You're like, at least give us a dragon drive-by, but they didn't. All right, speaking of getting dragons, Rhaena is still feeling really bad about not having a dragon herself. It just didn't work out for her, and she's stuck playing with a toy dragon in the nursery while Rhaenyra's very young children are playing with their own real baby dragon. And I think Rhaena just feels like, I think being in a nursery is very telling with toys, and she just doesn't feel like she's reached her true potential. But, it turns out there's a rogue dragon running around or flying around Lady Jane's territory. So perhaps this will be an opportunity for Rhaena to finally get a dragon. This would be a change from the books as well, to a degree. So I'm curious to see what they decide to do here. I think it's a nice idea. As for Daemon, he almost leaves Harrenhal, realizing that the visions are driving him mad. We called it too, by the way. We were like, if young Rhaenyra, Amelia Alcock, is back, perhaps Viserys will be back. But at this point, I think we don't care as much because, again, the storyline is just going on for too long. But it was very sad to see how Daemon did love his brother, and his brother loved him. But yet Daemon's jealousy kept them from having a real relationship. And Daemon realizes this, but of course it's too late. But again, as I said, I think that being stuck in the storyline, we just want out of it at this point. So even the return of, Viserys, I think isn't enough to make us be like, okay. I also think an issue is that these scenes were very surfacey and seem to be retreading ground that we've already trodden. So if only one of these scenes between Viserys and Daemon had real meat on it, I think that would have also gone a long way. But it didn't. We were like, we've seen this stuff. But in Alice, Daemon finds himself not only a new Mysaria, but an even more powerful woman behind the man, as Alice seems to operate on a supernatural level. Although I think she just flat out poisoned old Lord Grover, which now means his grandson. Remember, his grandson wouldn't kill him, even though Daemon was like, meh, you want to just take care of this for me? So Alice took care of it, and now the grandson is in charge and is the ally that Daemon needs to become a formidable foe in this battle for the throne. But will he continue to fight for himself, or will he realize that these visions are really telling him he's destroyed his life with his lust and greed for the throne, and if he would only back Viserys' choice of Rhaenyra, his wife, maybe his life would turn out a little bit better. We'll see. I think even we are so tired of these visions. I don't know if even we would pick up on that so much. I was just thinking about it, and I was like, oh yeah. So we'll see, because I don't see Alice pointing that out, right? All right, finally, what a wonderful scene between Aegon and Larys Strong. I loved it. Aegon is awake again, but horribly scarred and broken. He will never be the same. Larys obviously relates to that, but also they're both in danger from Aemond. Aegon, of course, has to actually die for Aemond to keep his newfound power. And Aemond made the mistake of not only dismissing Larys Strong, but doing so by embarrassing him in front of the entire council, making it look for just a moment like Larys would be the new hand of the king. And then Aemond was like, don't be an idiot. I'd never choose you. And Larys, it's ironic because being treated so poorly by others is what fuels Aemond, as Alicent points out. Yet here he is treating others poorly, not realizing that they will probably be similarly fueled against him. But I think Aemond feels Larys is no threat to him, which is why Larys tells Aegon it's an advantage to be underestimated. We'll see how Larys takes on Aemond, what he's planning, and if Aegon is smart enough to take Larys' advice. But I think that Larys is going to Jerry Maguire Aemond and just ride his butt like Zorro, because Aegon is Larys' only path forward at this point. I don't think he actually likes the guy. It's because he was perfectly happy to be Aemond's hand, but Aemond was, dunked him. You're right. Larys is simply playing the Game of Thrones. So what did you think of this week's episode? And how would you have paced out these 8 episodes? Remember, there's just 2 more to go. And what do you think of this development of Rhaenyra? What do you think of the development itself and how it's been handled? Share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.